Now that Cobra Kai has come to an end, I ask the question, who was the strongest fighter in the show? What's going on, guys? I'm Chris, and welcome back to another Cobra Kai video. Today I've got a tier list ranking of all the fighters from Cobra Kai based on how strong they are. I've got some unique tiers, not the typical S through F. I'm having some fun with this video. It's a bit of a different one, so I'll get into the rules here in a second, but before I do, be sure to hit that like button, comment down below who you think the strongest fighter in Cobra Kai is, and what tiers you would place all these different fighters in. And of course, subscribe and hit that notification bell to help reach my goal of 150,000 subscribers here on the channel. I mean, quite a bit. But without further ado, I say we just dive into this thing. So the tiers I've made are the best around. You guys know where that comes from. Champs, honor and respect, fighter in training, and Bert. Now, the best around goes without saying. Those are the elites, the best fighters in the show. Champs are right there. They're very strong fighters, great fighters, you could even say. They're just not the upper echelon absolute elites. Then you've got honor and respect. These are fighters who are very solid. I got respect for them. They fight with honor, but they aren't on the same level as some of these other ones. Fighter in training, kind of self-explanatory. They have their moments, but they got a long way to go. And then Bert, need I explain? These are fully randomized. I've just taken characters from Cobra Kai, so I don't have like Mr. Miyagi on here. I know he's featured in the show in flashbacks, but just characters from Cobra Kai. And frankly, I probably forgot some of the minor characters who are in some of the karate tournaments, but I went with like major memorable characters for the most part. If I missed any that you think should have been on the list, let me know down below. But let's jump in with Tori Nichols, a character who had a real turnaround for me. We're not talking about her character arc, we're talking about her fighting ability. She won the All Valley in Season 4, albeit it was rigged, so it doesn't really count, but ultimately she takes down Zara in Season 6, the penultimate episode of the entire show. I wouldn't say she's one of the best, but I am going to put her in that champs tier because she's a great fighter. She's got 2 tournament wins, so you have to give credit where it's due, even though one of them was rigged and has an asterisk next to it. She's gone toe-to-toe with some of the best. Her and Sam LaRusso's rivalry has made them both better fighters, and over the course of the show, she's really turned into maybe the best of the girl fighters on the show. Then we've got Shozen Taguchi. Obviously, he was the villain in the Karate Kid Part 2, but if we're talking this man's fighting skills, he is maybe the most versatile fighter in the show. Remember in Season 3, he teaches Daniel this whole new technique out in Okinawa, but even in this show, he goes toe-to-toe with Terry Silver, not only in karate, but in a straight-up sword fight poolside. What are we talking about? He's one of the best around. I'm putting him in that top tier. I'm going to put some respect on Shozen's name. He could go toe-to-toe with anyone in this show, in my opinion, and so I'm going to have to say he is one of the best around. Moving on, we've got Aisha, a character who wasn't in later seasons, but had a pretty prominent role in the early going of Cobra Kai. I would say Aisha, it's between fighter and training and honor and respect, but because of the way that she's not afraid to just lay someone out, I think I'm going to go with honor and respect, you know. She has her moments to shine. She never like got a tournament win or went too far in a tournament or anything like that, but you know, I respect her style of fighting, and I kind of wish we got more of this character as the seasons progress. Moving on, we've got Bert. You guys already know. Bert's going in Bert. It goes without saying, right? Bert is the meme of Cobra Kai. Maybe one of the characters with the most comedic presence who has the least lines to back that up. Bert is just on another level, so he's got his own tier. Obviously, Bert gets manhandled a lot. He's thrown around like a rag doll throughout this show, but it's kind of a running bit. We'll see if anyone else joins Bert in his own tier, but good old Bert, you gotta love him. Next, we have Robbie Keane, son of Johnny. Robbie is so close to being one of the best around, but unfortunately, I cannot put him in that tier. I am going to put him at the top of champs right now. You know, he goes toe-to-toe with Miguel in the Season 1 All Valley. He comes so close to winning the All Valley in Season 4 versus Hawk. And then, of course, in the Sekai Taikai, he is the captain of Miyagi-Do, and he's fighting Axel, starting to get some mojo, momentum coming back, and then boom, he gets injured. So he never really gets to shine when it matters most, unfortunately. But in terms of pure athleticism, fight capability, he's got to be in that champs tier. You could definitely argue he's one of the best, but there's just some other names on this list that are reserved for that absolute elite tier, and Robbie is on the outside looking in. If he had one more, point go his way in some of those tournaments, I'd argue he's one of the best, but he just fell short, which is a bummer. Moving on, we've got Sensei Wolf. Now, I know this is the new, hot commodity, the new young sensei who dominates people. If you look at Cobra Kai Season 6 Part 2, the man takes on Johnny and Daniel simultaneously and makes them look like double Burts, pretty much. Like, he rocks them, and they have no clue what to do. They're shaken up by it. They made it seem like this man was an unstoppable force who was just going to take down anyone in his path, but ultimately, he does show some weakness, and he loses to Johnny in the final fight at Sekai Taikai, giving Cobra Kai the overall dojo win. Now, I think Sensei Wolf is one of the most talented fighters, but because of that loss and the fact that he does have weaknesses and vulnerabilities, I am going to just put him in the champs tier. I don't think he's one of the best fighters in the show. We also need to pump the brakes. We've only seen him in one season. We haven't seen him fight every other fighter in the show, whereas with a lot of the people here, we've seen them fight one another, so we have more of a comparison point. We've only seen him in the middle of a brawl, mind you, fighting Daniel and Johnny, so it wasn't even like a fully sanctioned fight. So yes, he was whooping up on Johnny 2-0, but Johnny got the win in the end. So I'm going to say he's a champ. Honestly, in terms of pure fighting abilities, it's hard to compare some of the adults to the kids just because of straight up age, experience, physical strength. Like, these are full grown human beings, whereas some of the kids haven't reached their full athletic potential yet. So it's difficult to make that comparison. But I would have to say he's at the top of champs right now just because he was a freaking powerhouse there for a bit in Season 6. Next, we have Miguel Diaz, this generation's Karate Kid. Not only the winner of All Valley Season 1, but the winner of Sekai Taikai in Season 6. Him and Robbie had, their back and forths where one would win a fight, and it was kind of a rivalry throughout the show. But to me, in Season 5, when Miguel fights Robbie off the books at the apartments and Miguel kind of wins that fight, I've always viewed Miguel as superior since then. Now, I know by definition, Robbie won the fight in Part 1 of Season 6 to deem Robbie the captain over Miguel. However, in the end, I think Miguel has more of the accolades. I think if you were to let them fight 10 times, All Valley style, Miguel wins more than 5 of those, and so I give the edge to Miguel. I also just believe he's a beast. He's got a lot of heart, and that final fight with Axel at Sekai Taikai cemented him as just a legend. So I'm putting him in the best around, right behind Shozen. He is the best of the kid fighters in Cobra Kai to me, and it's really undisputable, I'd say. He's our GOAT. Next, we have Chris, who I respect, but we never see enough of him, and he's always falling back in the pack, when we look at all the other kids fighting. I'm going to say Chris is a fighter in training, which there's no shame, man. A lot of these, side characters in Miyagi-Do or whatever dojo we're in throughout the course of the show, they have their moments, but they never really were meant to be these great fighters. So I'd have him in fighter in training. No disrespect. Underrated side character for sure, but I can't have him any higher than that. Moving on, we've got Zara Malik, who was sort of the villain that was introduced in Season 6, the female competitor from the Iron Dragons. She and Tori had one hell of a rivalry, and it was so satisfying to see Zara's teeth get knocked out. Whew, the tooth fairy didn't come into play around in that final fight. I'm going to say Zara has to be in the champion tier, but I'm going to put her behind Tori because obviously Tori ended up winning when it mattered most, so Tori over Zara. But Zara's still a champ. She was in the Sekai Taikai finals. Who knows what else she accomplished outside of Season 6 canonically, you know what I'm saying? We could write our own fanfic in our head for how great of a fighter she was to have gotten here. She's got to be great. So she's a champion, but she's not one of the best fighters in the show, in my opinion. Moving on, we've got Sam LaRusso. I love Sam so much. Heavily overhated character, very underrated character. Been one of my personal favorite characters since I started the show. I've just loved seeing her journey, and I said this in my character tier list again, which you should check out. It's linked down below and somewhere up above in this video. I'm proud of the person she's become, just like Daniel said to her at the farewell scene in the airport. If I talk about it too much, I'll choke up. Anyway, Sam LaRusso. Potential hot take here. Bear with me. I'm putting Sam in champs over Tori and Zara. Now, before you rage and go yelling at me in the comments, you want to know my reasoning? Here's my reasoning. If you go back to Season 4, when Sam fought Tori in the All Valley, Sam would have won that fight if not for Terry Silver rigging it with the refs. Therefore, Sam would be the All Valley champ. Tori would have never won that tournament. That could have changed the trajectory of both of their lives and fighting styles and karate careers forever. And so to me, I've always viewed that as Sam, getting robbed. She was objectively robbed of winning the All Valley there, and that's always left a bad taste in my mouth. So she outfought Tori in that moment, when it mattered most, when the tensions were highest. That is the fight I go back to where Sam LaRusso beat Tori. Now, they obviously are fairly evenly matched. It's not like she blows her out of the water. We see Tori technically won that fight by definition, and they're pretty evenly matched, but I always have just leaned Sam. They're training partners by the end. Obviously, Tori does win the Sekai Taikai, but Sam ended up bowing out of that fight, so we never got to see them go toe-to-toe. So to me, because of that All-Valley match and it being rigged, I'm going Sam LaRusso by a hair over Tori Nichols. I'm sure that's a hot take to many. I stand by it, though. I stand by it. I'm going to defend Sam to the end of the line. Moving on, we've got Stingray. Ladies and gentlemen, round of applause for Stingray. Drop the Stingray emojis down below if those even exist. I love Raymond Porter. Like, I might be the man's #1 fan for all we know. Like, when he's fully painted in mud, like John Rambo at Coyote Creek, that's something else. He's maybe the most determined fighter on this list. That being said, he's not the best. Sure, he has his moments to shine at that Coyote Creek scene or when he takes down some goons outside of the dojo in season 5, but truly, he's like a fighter in training at best. But because I love Stingray and, you know, he drives the Cobra Kai mobile, I'm gonna say honor and respect. You never know. Anything's possible. I'm going to put him at the top of honor and respect right there for now. He will get passed, trust me, by more characters on this list, but for now, that feels appropriate. My bias towards that character definitely playing a hand here, but genuinely, let me know what you think of Stingray's fighting capabilities. Moving on, we've got Nate. I kind of view Nate and Chris as equals. I'm going to put Nate right here in fighter and training. One of those, like, you know, C, D tier characters, doesn't have a ton of screen time, constantly kind of getting picked on, and, you know, not much to say. He's got a couple moments, I guess, but never really advancing too far in tournaments or making a lot of noise when it comes to the fighting. But now we've got a trio to talk about, it looks like. First off is Terry Silver. Now, Terry Silver is the best villain in the show to me, over Kreese even, I would say. Silver, Thomas Ian Griffith's screen presence, unmatched, but we're talking about his fighting capabilities here. Well, the biggest fight I'd argue he has is with Daniel at the end of season 5, and Danny Boy wins that. Now, Daniel beats most people. He's one of the most elite, and we'll talk about him in a second, but Terry Silver, I mean, he's a specimen. The dude's towering over everybody. He can kick some ass, and he's not afraid to. He beats Daniel earlier in that season. Now, it kind of catches him off guard, but he still whoops up on him. And, of course, Terry Silver fights a lot of these other senseis. He beats Shozen at one point, so you gotta put some respect on his name. To me, if we're looking at tenure of career and, you know, presence he has in a fight, I feel like he instills fear, and I have to, you know, play that into his hands when it comes to fighting. He's one of the best around. I would actually put him maybe, I don't know, because he did beat Shozen, guys. He beat Shozen. I might actually have to put Terry Silver over Shozen, which feels like strange. I don't know. It's a kind of a coin toss. Shozen was already kind of exhausted, though, from fighting others. I think I'm going to put Shozen over Silver by a hair. I just think that if they were to fight a couple more times, Shozen would get the advantage from me. So Terry Silver, still one of the best around, but, you know, he does play dirty. He doesn't really play by the rules all that much, so it's kind of got an asterisk next to it at times. Moving on, we've got Johnny, the man. This is the best around. I'm going to say it. He's the best around, period, and he proved that at the Sekai Taikai by taking down Sensei Wolf, someone who might have taken down Danny Boy. You never know. Johnny proved he has more heart and determination than anyone else on the show. He can dig to the deepest of places when needed most. We saw that in the fight with Sensei Wolf. We saw that in season 5 when he's getting his ass kicked and he thinks about Carmen and his potential family, and he's like, I gotta get up and fight. We see this persistence from his character over and over again. Technically, right, at a technical standpoint, could there be other fighters who know better moves and might be actual, by definition, better fighters? Sure. But I'm also combining the intangibles here, and Johnny's got them all. I'm putting him at the top of the best around. He ends up beating Sensei Wolf. He technically ties Daniel in multiple rematches. I would just say, if he fought Daniel today, who wins? And I think I give the edge to Johnny. It would be a great fight. Obviously, if you go back to the Karate Kid, Daniel won, but you got to put some respect on his name. You got to. Next, we've got Daniel LaRusso himself, the Karate Kid. I mean, it's a toss-up, like I said. I mean, technically, he beat Johnny in the All Valley in 1984, but if we're looking at where they are now, I think it would be one hell of a fight, and I would give the edge to Johnny. So I'm going to put Daniel right behind him in the best around. That's right, the Karate Kid, is not the top tier fighter on this list. But Johnny, I really do believe after his ability to come back versus Sensei Wolf, with the determination, he cannot be stopped if he's in the right headspace. He cannot be stopped. Cobra Kai never dies, baby. What a badass. Next we have Mike Barnes, monster. This guy's a beast, and honestly, he's whooping ass in the Karate Kid 3 versus Daniel, but he comes back, and you have to think about this. Daniel, Johnny, Shozen are like, Mike, you actually pick who our people should be that we send to the Sekai Taikai. That just lets you know the man's fighting reputation. He was a hot commodity back in his prime, but even now, he still kicks ass. Johnny does get the best of him in that one-on-one fight they have. That's one of my faves from the early going of Season 6. I would still say Mike Barnes has to be one of the best around. And, you know, I would probably put him, this is real difficult, kind of lean Mike Barnes over Terry Silver. Call me crazy? I think I want to do it, guys. I'm going to put Mike Barnes over Terry Silver. That seems appropriate. I dig it. Next, we have Devin Lee, one of my fave characters who's just really underrated. She's a top 10 character probably for me. I'd have to really dig into that to break that down, but I think I had her in A tier in my recent video. In terms of a fighter, though, I have honor and respect for her. I'll put her at the top of that tier. She's definitely got a long way to go. She has her flaws. She's far from perfect, and she has to technically cheat to even get to the Sekai Taikai, but I just respect, again, the heart that she has and her ability to learn from her mistakes, especially because of Johnny's teachings. He's a great sensei to her, but her fighting ability, she could use some work, definitely, but I respect her, and, you know, she fights with honor. Next, we've got Piper, one of those characters who was always around in the earlier seasons, ends up getting knocked out of the All Valley in Season 4 by Sam LaRusso. I wouldn't necessarily say she's like a fighter in training because she's proven she can fight better than like Chris and Nate, but I would have her in somewhere in honor and respect, probably like right here, right there, probably. That seems appropriate, you know? Middle tier fighter, but never really made too much noise. Next, we have Kim Dae-eun, who she can get after it. She really can, but at the same time, I don't think she's absolute one of the best around. I would have her in the champs tier. Where is difficult because there are moments where I'm like, I think she could get taken down by some of the students, and we saw at one point maybe, you know, if Tori and Devin Lee team up, they give her a run for her money. So it's really difficult to me. This is maybe the hardest for me to place out of any fighter on this list. So let me know where you would put her down below, but I'm gonna say she's in the champ tier. She's not in the back. I'm gonna have her there as a placeholder for now, but she's also not at the top. Would I take Robbie over her? I mean, that's where it gets different with the age thing. It's so weird because we don't see a lot of the kids fight the adults all that much in the show. So it's like uncharted territory. We don't have like a real comparison point. You know what? I'll put her over Zara. I'll put her right there. That seems fitting for me right now. She should probably be higher based on fighting ability alone, to be completely frank. Next, we've got Dimitri Alexopoulos, that is, one of the Binary Bros. I always think Dimitri is in that honor and respect tier. I'll put him at the top because he does end up proving he can fight. Like, you got to look in part 1 of Season 6. He ends up like beating Hawk to win Capture the Flag, technically. So I would put him in the honor respect tier. He's come a long way from Season 1. He's also got length that a lot of other fighters don't. Like he's tall so he can see over his opponents. Real long arms, so wingspan is there, but at the same time, he's nothing special. He's kind of still a goober. And in the Sekai Taikai itself, there are some real frustrating moments in the first part of the season where I'm like, oh, you're screwing us, dude. What are you doing? Next, we have Kreese. Kreese is an elite fighter. Now, I have to take into account the fact that he trained Johnny. He also was like buds with Terry Silver, and Kreese doesn't mess around. In the end, he ends up fighting Terry and blowing up the yacht, so he makes the sacrifice play. But you gotta think, even in like Season 3, it takes Daniel coming in to help take Kreese down. Like, he's fighting Johnny, and he's dang near got the upper hand at times. He also fights Johnny, you know, in Season 2 premiere, and that's a great fight. So Kreese is no slouch. You got to think of the prison break, kicks a lot of ass there. He's one of the best fighters around. I mean, for Christ's sake, he was the sensei of Cobra Kai back in the 80s. The dude knows ball, okay? He's an elite fighter, one of the best around. I would put him probably right near Terry Silver. Maybe it's like coin toss for me. I think I would take Kreese over him. By a hair, I would take Kreese over him. Next, we have Kyler, baby. I was never a Kyler fan. If you watch my reaction series, I just could never stand the character. But I would say he's in like the honor and respect tier just because he definitely doesn't fight with honor or respect sometimes. But I do have to, you know, put some respect on him at times. He's a solid enough fighter who can show he's got what it takes sometimes. I'd put him probably right here. You know, I do think I would have to take Devin Lee over him because Devin Lee, we've seen progress her karate career, especially in season 6, whereas Kyler kind of moved on, stepped away. So at this point in time, I believe Devin Lee could take him, but that's just my 2 cents. Next, we have Anthony LaRusso, aka Lapusso to many. I still believe he's a fighter in training. I would put him at the top because of his performance in season 6 when they're, you know, competing to try and get spots for the Sekai Taikai. He does give it his all, and he's shown a lot of advancements in his fighting capabilities since he started fighting, really. But in all honesty, that's probably all he's ever going to be, unless we get a spin-off and he becomes Daniel 2.0, and then I'll eat my words. We'll see. Next, we have Axel Kovacevic, who seemed like a freaking tank, someone who just was going to kill everyone in his path forever. And I was even at the point where I was watching season 6, and I was like, no one's stopping this man. They might as well just, you know, wave the white flag. It's over. It's over. In actuality, he ends up losing to Miguel. Now, he is a dirty fighter at times. He listens to his senseis too much to a fault. Now, he definitely got the upper hand on a lot of our fighters often, but he ended up losing to Miguel. Therefore, Miguel's over him. Therefore, I have Sensei Wolf over him and a lot of the other senseis over him. I'm putting him in the champs tier. I don't think he's one of the best around. I think Sensei Wolf's the better fighter. But then when it comes to Robbie, I'm like, is Robbie actually better? I think I have to go over Robbie because he did have him beat. But Robbie was coming back. Had Robbie not been injured, could he have won the fight? You know what? I believe Robbie. In that scene when he talks to Johnny afterward, he's like, I know in my heart of hearts I could have won. I'm going to believe Robbie Keane. And I think Robbie would have won that fight, making him the better fighter. Again, pure will and determination would have driven him to that win, whereas Axel's kind of driven by jealousy, hate, and fear of almost his sensei. So I would say Robbie, the better fighter over Axel. Hot take potentially. Next, we have Hawk, All Valley champ in season 4. People forget that. Hawk's no slouch, okay? I'm going to put Hawk in the champs tier. He's not one of the best around, but he is a champ. I would take Hawk over a good batch of fighters here. You know, it gets really tough at times for me to compare based on just physicality, athleticism. Like Zara, would Zara beat Hawk? There's no telling. Hawk at his best was like season 4. Hawk seemed unstoppable, but I do feel like since then he's definitely taken a bit of a back seat. But you gotta think, at his best, couldn't Hawk take down Robbie? Couldn't he take down Miguel, arguably? Like, that's my thing. I look at the character's best. Obviously, he has his low points, but at his best, he was going toe-to-toe with freaking Robbie. I'm going to say Hawk is right behind Axel in terms of fighting capabilities because at his absolute best, he beat Robbie, guys. So he could even be higher. He could be higher. I'm just going to put him right there because I feel like after the All Valley Season 4, the writers and creators are like, all right, let's chill off Hawk a bit and let's bring him back down to earth. So it's unfortunate, but I gotta factor that in. Next, we have Yoon. Yoon was always like the 3rd tier guy in this new season of Cobra Kai. I guess the second in command over there behind Quan, who we'll get to in a second. I'm gonna put Yoon in the honor and respect tier, but you know, you could argue fighter in training, but I'll put him like right here. I think Yoon, we'll go right here with Yoon, somewhere in like the middle of that tier. You know, he's the next guy up, the next man in line, but he didn't really get to prove it all that much. Next, we have Mitch, aka Penis Breath, the only other person who will be joining the Burt tier today. Ladies and gentlemen, you think I'm kidding. This guy's a schmuck, and maybe my thoughts on him as a non-fighter factor into this. I don't think he's a great fighter, by the way, but his goofiness and everything, I'm putting him at the back of the tier. Burt is over Mitch. I think Burt wins the 1v1, guys. Next, we got Kenny Payne, who there was a moment in time where Kenny seemed like he was on this upward trajectory to be like the greatest fighter of all time. That kind of laid off that a little bit. I have honor and respect for Kenny, no doubt about it. I would probably have to put him almost at the top of that tier, actually. I think I will. When Kenny's at his best, I think he's better than Dimitri, better than Devin Lee, better than Yoon. So Kenny's going at the top of honor and respect. Again, there was a moment where he was like the new thing in Cobra Kai, the new big bad. No one could take him down. He was quick, fast. You know, he might have been smaller than you, but he could juke your ass out and just get around you real quick. So he was real nice for a bit there. But again, they kind of brought him back down, I think, to put our main OG characters kind of back up a little higher for the final season or two. Next, we have Quan. Rest in peace. Quan is no more, but you got to think, Quan was whooping ass. He was this feared leader of Cobra Kai and seemed like an unstoppable force in the tournament. I'm going to say Quan is going, this is really difficult. Really, really, really difficult. All things considered here, you know, I would probably have to go in the champs tier. He's not one of the best around, but he's in the champs tier. But where? I don't know. I think Zara would get him, honestly. So I'm putting him at the back of champs. He was a little overhyped. Yes, he liked to scream at other people and try and get in your head mentally, but I would put him at the back. That might be a hot take. I'm going to put him back there, though. I think Zara and Tori could probably get him. I think Sam, Kim Dae-eun, Hawk. I mean, if we're having a fair fight here, I think it would go that way. Now, you could say I'm underrating Kwon, to each their own, but I'm content with where I have him for now. And then we've got Master Kim rounding out this list. Master Kim is like this karate Yoda who just taught so many people in the Miyagi-verse karate. But we never really get to see him in action all that much, so there's a lot of mystery surrounding this character. If I had to place him in a tier, it's extremely difficult. I'm not going to put him in best around. I know you might be saying, Chris, what are you doing? You have to. But we never really saw him fight. The last thing we saw was him get stabbed by Kim Dae-eun, and he's dead, so I can't get that image out of my mind. Call me crazy, but in his state that we see him in the show, which is kind of how I've approached this whole tier list if I haven't made that clear, I don't know who he's taken down, really. He's going in the honor and respect tier. He's a legacy kind of guy. Back in his prime, sure, he probably would have been the best outright, but right now, this isn't some Palpatine situation for Revenge of the Sith. I'm putting him in honor and respect. I'll put him like right here because, you know, that feels appropriate. I'll put him at the top of honor and respect, you know, but I cannot in good conscience put him any higher than that because of the state he was in, his age, his physical, you know, ailments. Like, the man was old. There's no getting around it. So I just don't see him going toe-to-toe with many, but, you know, out of respect, I'll put him there. But he has taught many people the way, so you got to give it to him. But that does it for my Cobra Kai fighters ranked tier list. Let me know in the comments down below what tiers you would put these fighters in. Do you disagree? Do you agree with mine? Let me know your picks down below, and of course, hit that like button, subscribe, hit that notification bell, and stay tuned for more content coming very soon. But thank you guys, as always, for watching, and until next time, I'll see you guys later.